Have you ever found yourself in a conversation with someone who didn't just test the limits of bad taste? They really saw it as an Olympic sport and they were going for the gold. Right? Have you ever been in a conversation or a room with someone who couldn't stop talking, and no matter how much you tried, you couldn't tune them out? How about that person who loves the comments and the jokes filled with racist or sexist innuendo, and they really don't care what you think? Those folks go by a lot of different names. Bigots, bullies, and for some of us, close family members. And let me tell you, folks, they are everywhere. So what do you do when these situations present themselves? When someone's using your time and you're trying so desperately to find some peace and quiet? Well, commonly, you're looking around the room. You're probably making eye contact with the others that are suffering with you. Or maybe you're looking around and trying to find anything that remotely looks like an exit. Trust me, folks, there is no coincidence that this emoji exists. Now, imagine yourself in the following scenarios. Your car goes missing one night. You find out the next day that some teenagers have taken it joyriding, and while they were out, it's winter, they hit some black ice, they veer off the road and hit a stop sign. Don't worry, these hypothetical ne'er-do-wells are fine, but your car, not so much. You go with your family to your nephew's t-ball game, and you get carried away talking to your cousins, and you're not paying attention. A fly ball comes your way, and when you literally take one for the team, you end up getting a nice little lump on your head and a halfway decent story. Imagine you're at work. You're drinking coffee and enjoying some time in the break room, and one of your colleagues starts talking about some recent decisions that your boss has made. And as he's getting riled up, no one's stopping him, and it becomes a full-blown tirade. The next thing you know, the office busybody walks in the break room. She immediately reports back to the boss everything that had just been said, and everyone who was just in the room. Now, what do these situations all have in common? Wrong place, wrong time, sure. How about a little bad luck? Yeah. What they really have in common is that you are forced to deal with the negative consequences of someone else's bad behavior. And you may say, hey, I didn't say anything incriminating. I was just sitting there drinking my coffee. I was behaving myself. Well, the truth is very simple. You own every conversation that you're in. The outcomes and the consequences are included. What that means is you can agree or not. You can be offended or not. It doesn't matter. You own the conversation just as much as the person leading it. Now, you could have been sitting there and drinking your coffee and doing your best to tune that person out, and I can assure you the report back to your boss went something like this.
Not that I'm one to gossip, so let's just get that out of the way. You will not believe what I just heard in the break room. Jim from accounting was going on and on about what a terrible boss you are and the memo that you sent around on Friday. But you know I don't believe that. I totally support everything you do, and I think you're a great boss. But Jim, he really has an axe to grind with you. You know, Beth and Megan from purchasing were there too. And you know, I never trusted Beth. She has that shifty look about her. Well, and you know Megan is up to no good.
Poor Megan and Beth. Oh my gosh. They were just sitting there, but because they were present and because they allowed that conversation to continue, they now own the consequences of Jim's behavior just as much as he does. Now, what's common? What's common is that we don't address it. We don't address the conflict. And why is that? Because, guys, conflict sucks. We don't like conflict. It makes us uncomfortable. It puts our relationships at risk. It gives us anxiety. It stresses us out. No one likes conflict. Hold on. I take that back. There are some people who definitely like conflict. They hang out at airports and customer service desks, and they will give a hard time to anyone that's forced to listen. So I take it back. No normal, reasonable, and sane person likes and enjoys conflict. There's a George Bernard Shaw quote that I love, and you may have heard it. And he said, "I learned long ago, never wrestle with a pig. You get dirty, and besides, the pig likes it." Now, as a diversity leader in corporate America, my peers and I, we talk all the time about how we can take those conversations before they go to HR. How can we change that conversation before it goes to the boss? No one likes feeling like they've been taken to the principal's office. So how can we help not just our employees, but our peers, our community members? How can we help each other change the conversation so that you aren't wrestling the pig? So really what I want you to remember is that where you may not change their minds, you can change the conversation. Back in 1928, Dr. William Moulton Marston wrote a book called Emotions of Normal People. And in that book, granted, the book was written in 1928. In 2019, it might be a slightly different story. But in 1928, when he wrote this book, what he was determining was that he called it the DISC model of behavior. And the DISC model of behavior elaborated on the way that we as people interact with our emotions, our environments, and how it changes our behavior. The DISC model of behavior is adapted over time into the personal profile system, and some of you may be more familiar with it as DISC profiling. Commonly used in sales and executive evaluation, DISC stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. And these four things are the primary groups that he talked about. And what they are is really our personality styles and how they fit into the model of normal emotions. The dominance personalities, those are exactly what you think they are. They are probably outgoing. They're people who are likely to find themselves intimidating and use that to their advantage. But when you're dealing with people in the dominance personality, it's okay to be direct with them because they will be direct with you. Those in the influence personality type, those are people who are gregarious. They value relationships. If you've heard of someone called a people person, chances are they were an influence personality. Steadiness, just like the picture. Steadiness personalities strive for balance and harmony. They're looking for achieving the calm in their life. They don't like conflict any more than you do, so if you're approaching a conflict-based situation with an S personality, think of where you can find areas where you commonly agree and use that as a baseline. Conscientiousness. Those are analytical, tactical people. They pride themselves on probably being right quite a bit of the time. So with people in the conscientiousness primary group, think about addressing the problem itself primarily and not making it personal. Now, for me, when I'm trying to interrupt a pattern of bad behavior, I kind of tend to use the same word, and that word is whoa. The reason I like the word whoa is it can express surprise, disappointment, shock. You can also express happiness, amazement. Something great's just happened. Now, you may be used to pattern interrupting behavior in your own lives and not even realize it. How many of you have had a conversation with your mom and she ends a sentence or the conversation with, okay, or, well, we all know, people, that there's a lot of meaning in those two simple words. And most of the time the meeting was, honey, I don't agree with you, but please, for the love of all that is holy, can we move on? So what's your whoa? What are some things that you can adopt today? What are some practices that you can bring into your own day-to-day life to interrupt the patterns of negative behavior and take back control of the conversation? So I've tried to align some suggestions based on the personality types that we've talked about. Would you say that in front of your mother? Now, I have used this one many, many times. And sometimes you'll get someone who says in response, well, yes, I would. The answer is, well, your mother's not in the room, but I am, and I would love to move on. I also am a big fan of asking questions in response. So the next time someone gives you one of those innuendo-filled, that's what she said jokes, maybe you just stop them and ask, well, is that what she said? The dominance personality types really do appreciate being direct. You can adopt this strategy and be direct with them. You have permission. Have you considered that maybe this isn't the right time or place? With influence personalities, remember, Sometimes their egos can get bruised and their personalities or their feelings hurt. So think about how you might be able to put the focus on the situation and not so much what they have said. I also like to suggest maybe we should put this in the parking lot for later. Now, if they don't know what the parking lot is, just tell them, well, that's where we put things that we like to keep overnight and we come back to them in the morning. Trust me, I've had a full parking lot since 1992. Okay, can we agree to move on to another topic? Remember what I said about those steadiness personalities, that they strive for balance and harmony, that they're looking for agreement. So by giving them a layup opportunity in areas where you can very simply agree, you're helping them avoid the conflict that they don't want in the first place and driving for that harmony in the conversation. Asking them to repeat themselves. Now, with those conscientious, those C-type personalities, remember, they're analytical, they're exacting, they rarely commit faux pas. So by asking them to repeat themselves, accomplishes a few things. One, you're giving them the indicator that you've recognized that what they've said isn't appropriate. But you're also giving them the opportunity to reflect, to rewrite history, to rethink what they've said. If they double down on it, you can very simply go back to one of the other strategies and suggest maybe another place or time. Now, it's important to remember that inflection, tone, the way that we say things really is just as important as the words that we've said. For example, okay, no, that's fine, we can move on, is a lot different than, okay, no, that's fine, we can move on. Think about that. Same words, totally different meaning, and changes the context of the conversation. Rolling your eyes, crossing your arms, pointing, those are all signs of passive-aggressive and sometimes just flat-out angry behavior. So if you're trying to avoid the conflict, remember what your body and your intonation are telling the other participants, not just your words. Now, these are just suggestions. These are things that you can implement into your day-to-day life, but let's not forget the fifth option. If you've exhausted all opportunities and someone's being offensive, get up and walk away. Don't lose sight of the absolute easiest option. When you sit there and when you tolerate the behavior without correcting it, you're giving that individual permission to repeat it over and over. If they're saying things that you wouldn't want them to say to your mother, don't let them say it to you. So your challenge today for me is simple. Use this opportunity to recognize that you may not change minds, but you can change the conversation. I encourage you to take the approach that is truly uncommon. And don't forget to be yourselves. Thank you.